All right. So today is the third lecture. We are actually covering this thing known as control statements. So control statements is used in any programming language to actually do breaking. Okay. So there are three main control statements that you have to know. Your if statement. Okay, we generally call this as your if statement. Okay. Sometimes in certain books, it's also known as uh, your if then else statement. Okay, we have for loops. So for and while are two different type of loops. There's only one function in or one method in Python for your if statement. That's only the one type. Okay. If you are used to other form of programming language, I can't remember who did, let's say, C programming before. C programming, you have this concept known as why am I using this? C programming, you have another concept known as a case. Okay, a case statement. Python doesn't have a case statement. I think it should be Johnson. So in C programming, you have this thing known as a case statement. In Python, there isn't. Okay. So if statement works this way, okay, it have a condition. So the condition, if it's true, it will execute one code. So if this is true, if condition is true, you will execute one set of code. If the condition is false, then you execute another set of code. So basically what it means is your program actually comes to a division point. If it's a true, then you go down one direction. If it's a false, then you go down another direction. Okay. So essentially that is how if statement works. Obviously, this condition, which I call it C, it must be able to determine whether it's true or false. Okay. It's either true or false. There's no in between. Okay. So this is the structure. Now, Python, as you realize, it doesn't have curly brackets, okay, for statements. So how does Python actually knows what is the block of code? So for example, I say that, I say if condition, okay. So now I have statement 1, statement 2, statement 3, and so on. Okay, condition. Then I have an else. Then I have, let's say, statement 4, statement 5, statement 6. What Python does is it uses the indentation to demarcate which are the blocks of code. So it uses the indentation to demarcate the blocks of code. So some of you actually start to face this problem known as your indentation error. Okay. You face this exception known as indentation error. Simply means that the number of gaps that you leave between each line is different. Okay, that's called indentation error. Python cannot handle that. Okay. So let's say if I give you a simple example, go to my this. So here, if I use this example, now, what do you think will be printed? Message. Okay, what do you think will be printed? If my value is 50, what will be the result? What will be the answer basically? So the statement is if value more than 100, print the value is, I'll say print the value is more than or equals to 100. Otherwise, the value is less than 100. So what should we print? What should be the answer? The else statement, right? Because this part, if value more than 100, because value is actually 50, so the condition is false. When it's false, this code will not be executed. It goes to the else statement to execute this code. So the answer will be value is less than 100. Okay, because value is 50, value is less than 100. Now I can actually do something. Let's say if I were to do this, okay, let me just show you again. So if I say that, okay, value is more than 100, then I can actually do something. Say value equals to value plus 2. Okay. And print the new value is something. Okay, so plus string of value. Oh, okay. One more person is missing. Rebecca, where are you there? Just suddenly Rebecca is missing. Okay, Rebecca, make sure you mark your attendance, huh? Okay, make sure you mark your attendance. Let me see your attendance. Rebecca, attendance. Still not updated. So who haven't marked? Okay, hold on. Okay, good. 15. All right. Okay. All right. Mark okay. Okay. That is good. Okay. So anyway, we are back to here. Okay. So then, if I say that the value is, let's say, 150. Okay. In this case, what will be printed? What's the code that will be executed? Why not Rebecca make a see whether can answer this question? This part. Rebecca, still confused? Value is more than or equals to 100. Okay. Then it will not only execute this line. In fact, it will execute this entire block of codes. Okay, because it's the same indentation. So let me show you exactly what it does. This is exactly what it does. Okay, you will execute this print, then you will say value equals value to 2. The new value is now 502. Okay, so if I were to mess it up and I do something like this, okay, if I have a let's say if I do this, okay, you realize that the print, this part is not aligned properly. I will get an indentation error. So this is where you get an indentation error. See, the indent doesn't match the outer indent. Or you can do it the reverse. This will also give you an indentation error. So it must be properly aligned. Okay, this will also give you an indentation error, even though there's only one space. That is why I tend to use 4 spaces for indent. If you never realize it, it gives you indentation error. So far, so good. So make sure you correct for all this. And it's also important to check your indent. What is the space here? Are you indenting using tabs or using space? See, maybe you can fix the indentation if you try, but sometimes it can be a bit confusing as well. So find any problem? Okay, in Python, it's very common to get indentation error. Okay, so you have to know what does it mean. So far, so good? Yes, no? So my value have to be less than 100 before it will say that value is less than 100. Okay, then I can have a lot of different blocks of code. It doesn't matter. Okay. So let's go see some of the examples. Let's say if your DNA is just a short sequence, print A. Okay, if A is in DNA, then print this. Okay, so is A inside? Okay, A is in there. Okay, if you remember our string operators, so it says print A is in there, in this. Okay, so C. Oops. However, the next one says that if C in DNA, but there's no C inside, you print this. The condition does not satisfy, so it actually prints nothing. Okay, in Python, you can print nothing. That means it will not be executed, that's all. So far, so good? Any problem here? Okay, I did give you some tips on how to study this subject. Basically, I put up all the lecture slides already, all the way to chapter 9 in LMS. So every weekend, just spend 10 or 15 minutes, glance through the lecture slides so that you know what's happening. So what happened is, let's go to the next example. You can use an else statement as well. This is exactly what I've done here. I am using a else statement. Okay. So I'm using a else statement in, let me just redo this part. So here I'm actually using an else statement. So if my value is, let's say, 80, I will just print value is less than 100. Makes sense, right? If I don't have the else statement, that means if I don't have this else statement, else part of it, it will actually do nothing. There's nothing that comes out because it will just skip this entire block of code. So far, any problem here? Any issues? Hello, respond. Any problem? Ambrose, are you getting it? I know means you're okay, or you know, or what? What does it I know means? Okay, I get it. Okay, good. Okay. So you have two options. One is you can do that, but what happened is, let's say you want an else statement. Some of you have this, I would say not a habit, but it's an issue. Let's say you want to have an else statement that does nothing. Okay, this else statement, you do not want to do anything. You can actually do that. What you end up in, let's say other programming language, you have this close and open and close inverted commas, brackets. But in Python, we do not have that. We just have this statement called pass. Pass simply, it is like an empty space. Okay? Because you cannot have an else statement without something. See, it will give you endless. You're expecting something. So you have to do a pass to get rid of it. Okay? This is actually the last slide. We will actually talk about it. Now, let's continue the next part, which is what happens if you have multiple if statements. So for example, you want to say if value, or let's say, I'll say this thing about, delete, where's my delete button? Okay. Let's say if score is more than, let's say, 80, print, let's say A. Okay. And then if score is more than 70, then print something else. Okay. Right, you can actually do that. So let's do something what we have. Let's go to the editor, and we say that this is a score. Okay. Score, for example, you say that equals to, so you score, this person score 65. Okay. Then I do the reverse. I say that if score is more than 60, I'll say I'll print this person gets a C, for example. Okay. Don't bother. Okay. Then if the score is more than 70, then you get a print this person gets a B, so on and so forth. Okay, if score is more than 80, then this person gets A. So in this case, what will be printed? Okay, Joanne, what will be printed? C, correct. Yep, so you get C. Okay. But what happened is if you have this, for example, this person actually scores 72. The score is actually the student actually scores 72. Then what will be printed? Yunhui, let's try Yunhui. B, but does it print C as well? Suppose you only print B, right? But let's say you go through each individual statement. Is 70 more than 60? Is 70 more than, is 72 more than 70? So what will it get printed here? You see a problem? Yeah, it will print C and B, correct. It will print C and B. So what happens is, there are two ways. How do you solve this problem? How will you solve that it only prints B? It doesn't print C. How can we solve this problem that it only prints the answer that one, which is B? Any suggestions? Erwin, any suggestions? Else if? Okay, you can use else if, but let's don't bother about else if first. First, you have to do the opposite direction. Okay, you have to swap it. So this is 72, right? So the logical way is you swap the 80 with the 60 first. Okay. Then let's see what is this outcome. Yep, else if is correct, Ambrose, but let's take a step at a time. So let's do this part first. If I do the swapping, that means I do the highest score to lower score instead of lower score to higher score. So Erwin, what will be the outcome here? Erwin, B and C, correct. So this is what happens. You print B and C. So what you should do is, basically what I want is, if it evaluates correct for this, true for this, I do not want it to evaluate for the 60 anymore. So the way to do it is what Ambrose says. If it's only when it is false, okay, then I will do the second part. So I will change this to else if statement. Okay. But you realize that Python doesn't have an else if statement. We just truncate it to, we remove two alphabets. So this is called else if statement. So in this case, you realize that it will only print B because what happened is, if it score 80, it doesn't score 80, then it goes to the next one. Okay, if the statement here, the condition here is true, it doesn't do the next else if again. Okay, make sense? So it's only when both conditions here are false, then you evaluate for 60. Okay, so let me do something like this. Let's say the person only score 55. I do an else if here. What will be printed out if the person is only 55? Nothing, right? Correct. It prints nothing because this is still false. So it's false, false, false. You print nothing. Exactly. So Ryan is correct. But I just want a baseline. That means the bottom line I can use if everything fails. Oops. Let me just copy this up. I will say that, let's say if everything fails, that means then I will have a final else statement. When everything fails, then I print D. So here what it does is it will print only D. Okay, because score more than 80 is false, score more than 70 is also false, score more than 60 is false, then there's nothing else till you go all the way here. Print D. But if the score is actually, let's say 62, this is false. Okay, go to the next one. This is false. Go to the next one. This is true. Then it will print C, and then D, you will just ignore it. Make sense so far, right? Can you see the difference in my 16 and 17? So any problem with this logic yet? Okay, there is no limit to the number of else if you can use. Okay, I can even say something like this. Within a if statement, let's say score more than 80. Within a if statement, I can actually have another if statement. Okay, so let's say I can do, if it's more than 80, okay, then I say if score is more than, let's say 85, and you print this person get a A plus. If it's less than 80, less than 85, that means 81 to 84, 81 to 85, then you will only get a A. Make sense? So if this is the case, and the person, let's say, gets 82, what will be the outcome? Let's see. Junhan, what is the outcome? Mr. Fong Jun Hang. Huh? Hey, read the question, can or not? 82 eh? A, correct. Okay, because it's not more than 85, it cannot be A plus. Okay, if it's 80, let's say 86, then it will be A plus. All right, so let's try out. Let's say this is 86, then this will give me A plus. Make sense? Any question about if statement? So here is also another indentation block. Make sure, that means there's two indentation block here. That makes the reading actually easier to read. Okay, so far so good. Long term, any issue? Mr. Heng, no, good. All right. Okay, so let's continue. So if statements is you have multiple conditions. Okay, if and if-else statement, you have multiple conditions. You can actually have multiple conditions as well. There is no limit. So if else is one, the other if else will be ignored. Yes, correct. So in this case, so back to Ryan's problem, if it goes into, if this is true, okay, so let's say if this is true, then you ignore the other if else statements already. Correct. Is that what you want? Does that answer your question, Ryan? Okay, good. Yep. So this is a way, it doesn't use a lot of computation time also, but it's a way of making things a little bit more efficient. Okay. So basically you have all these examples, it means the same thing as well. Okay. Okay, so you have a different types. You can have if else statement in different ways. Now, the condition can be more complicated as well. The condition, you can even have sub-conditions. So for example, if I want to reduce this problem, I will say something like this. Okay, I will say that if score is more than 80 but less than 85, I can do something else. Okay, if score is more than 80 and score is less than 85, then I just print A. Okay. Then here I can say that else if, oops, what do I do? Okay, let's see. Else if score is more than 80, then I just print A. Okay. I can do that as well. I can truncate things together and make it easier to read. Okay. So this is true and this is true, then you will actually execute this block of code. Okay, so the conditions can be rather complicated if you really want to do a lot of different things. Okay, make sense? Another common error that you will face is you forget this colon. This is colon, not semicolon, not comma. Okay. Usually when I have multiple statements that looks like this, right, I'll tend to bracket up to make it a little bit more easier to read. This is my own way of doing things. I tend to bracket up. Similarly, this is the way that I can tell whether it's a code written by you or not, because your style will actually be shown in the code itself. Okay, so my style is I have a lot of brackets. Some of your style you don't have a lot of brackets. So far so good. Okay, let's go on to this thing known as a for loop. A for loop is essentially an iteration. Okay, so let's say, let me just give you an example and it will make your life a lot easier. So for example, I'll say for number in, I'll have a list. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, this is called a collection. Basically, it's also known as an iterable, things that I can iterate. Okay, then I say that print I'll print value is say something, string of number. Okay. Then what it does is it will just print the value is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So every time it loops, it takes one item at a time until it finish up the entire list. So far so good. Why not range? I can use range as well. Okay, so Ambrose, I can use range as well. Just that here I use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I may not be Maybe I can use 1, 4, 5, 8, 9. Okay, so here I cannot use range. But yes, Ambrose, I can use range. So you understand? Mr. Ambrose. Ambrose, get it or not? Okay. So this is what we call as iterable, and you can use it for a lot of different things as well. For loop is very efficient, with the exception that Johnson, I think for C programming, for loop is a lot more crazier, but here Python is a bit more restrictive. Now we have a different issue. So for Ambrose, this is what you want. For example, I can actually do this. I can actually do a range. Okay. A range I can do from 1 to 7. Okay. This is what you want. Okay. Similarly, I will use the indentation to block out the code. So I can do something like this. Okay. I will say that original value is this. Print. Let's say 2 times original value is, so I have string, then I have my number times 2. Okay. Again, I can do, let's say 5, here 5. Okay. So now you keep repeating this entire set of codes. So like this. Okay. Can see what happens here? Let's see. I think my screen can be a little bit too tiny. Let me see if I can change something. Mode, update, project, console, debug, options. Where on earth is my options? Yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder for you to see, but it's still quite manageable. Okay, anybody do not understand my statement 25? Still okay? Any issue? So 7 is exclusive, correct? Because remember, range is from the starting to the ending. Starting is inclusive, ending is exclusive. Yep, Rebecca, you're right. Any other issues? Okay, so on what occasion will I use range? Actually, on many occasions. For example, I want you to print each line of a file. So the file size or the number of lines in a file may be 1,000, maybe 10,000. So you use range to actually do that. From line number 1 to line number 10,000. So you use a range. Or you can use, let's say for example, I can say something like this. Okay. For example, I say that my lines. So assuming this is the lines of a file, right? I use a range and I kind of generate a file with artificial file. So I from range 1 all the way to line number 1,000. Okay, so this is the lines of a file. Then I can say that for line in range. So I want to start from 1, okay, all the way to maybe the length of the lines, but I only want every 100 lines. If I do a sampling and file, I want to do a systematic sampling and file, I want every 100 samples. I can do that. Then I say print lines line. So you just print me every 100th line, starting from 2. Make sense? Otherwise, I'll be having to sit here and type. And actually, the lines of the file, every file may be different. One file may be 1,000 lines, another file may be 200 lines. So how do I know what to use? I cannot type it out in totality. So I use the n range as the length of items in the lines. Okay. So Rebecca, this needs a little bit of digesting, I understand. Okay. Because it comes to the next problem. For example, can I use 4 in let's say alphabets? Okay, for example, I say that my sequence, let's say, let me just give it a sequence, right? So I want to print out the position of all the C's. So my work is, what are the positions of C's? So how do I do that? I just use a for loop. So for, I say base in sequence. Okay, then I say that if base equals to C, I will print out the C's first. I don't care about the position first. So I say print base. Here will only print out all the C's, but it doesn't tell me which base. Correct? It will print out as 1C, 2C, 3C, 4C, 5C, 6Cs, and 7. So I have 1, 2, 3, 7 here. But what I want is to print out the position, not the actual base itself. How do I do that? If you think about it, what is a C? I want to do a sequence and the position here, 0, 1, 2, 3. So if sequence index 3, this will be a C, right? How do I get something of this structure into the for loop? Let's put it here first. How do I get this into the for loop statement? Print, yes, correct. You do something like that, but there's one more step. You have to change the for this exact lines 30. Ambrose, you're getting right. You change this part, yes, but you have to change all the 3 lines to use what you have there. If I just change this, Ambrose, it will give me an error. Okay. It will give me an error because this is a alphabet. It must be an integer. So it must be a position, not an item. The way to do this will be here. Okay. So instead, let me just show you in the editor. So this is what I did in the first place. Okay. The way to actually do that is I will say that position. I want the position instead. In, and this is where, Rebecca, we need the range. We need the range of the length of the sequence. Okay. So let's see what is happening to the range of a sequence. Range of a sequence gives me up to 35 because the length of the sequence is 35. Alright, so if I were to do this and I force it into a list, it will give me 1 to 34. Make sense? So this is the position already. I'm getting there. Then here, I will say that if the sequence at the position that I'm in is equals to C. Okay. Then I will say that print, I'll say C in position of something plus string position, which close to what Ambrose is trying to do. Yes. So let me just try this out. Okay, maybe I'll just remove this, right? Cut away. Okay, so now it tells me where are the positions. So position 3, because it's actually it starts from 0. So A is position 0. Make sense? So far so good. More precisely, I'm supposed to say it is because A is 0. So this is position 0. It sounds a bit strange. The position should start out from 1, so I have to plus 1. So it makes more logical sense now because A is actually the 4th base. So it's 4, 9, and so on. So far so good. Who else have not called? Ifang, any problem? Can you understand what has happened? No problem. Okay, good. So let's go back. What should I do if I want to say that what are the positions of all the CTs? So this part we can throw away already, right? It's irrelevant to us. So here, I want the position of CTs. Now I have 2 nucleotides, not just 1 nucleotide. How can I change my code here? Okay, so let's do this part. This is a C position, so we are done with that. Copy. What am I doing with my mouse? Okay. So if I now want the position of the CTs, what should I do to these lines of code from line 11 to 13? Yeah, I know in presenting, what's wrong with this? Okay. View, can I actually, let me see if I can do something better. Project console, I'm trying to expand the wordings, but let me see if I can do that. View, preference is what I'm looking for. Preference, syntax colorings, spider, general, console size, console appearance. Okay, so let me change to 14. 14. Ah, now this is a little bit better. Just it looks humongously big. Okay, what should I do to these lines? What should I do to from line 11 to 13 that I have to allow me to do CTs? Okay, so let's say that my purpose is not a sliding window. So my purpose is, okay, if I want to do CTs, right, I will take AG, is AG equals to CT, then is GA equal to CT, and so on and so forth, right? I'll do a sliding window, correct? So far, so good? Make sense? So just now, what I did did only see my window is just one nucleotide. Okay? My window is just one nucleotide at a time. But now I want CTs, my window is actually two nucleotides. So my first option is AG, is it equals to CT? So here will be CT. Is AG equals to CT? Then is GA equals to CT. Then is AC equals to CT. Then is, to some extent, yes, very similar. Correct. I can't exactly remember what you wrote, Ambrose. It's a bit too long already, but it's very similar. So what I'll do is, here what okay, so position, something like that. Something like that. But you're using a while loop. So let's not go to a while loop first. We are still at the for loop, but you're almost there. Okay. So what I will need is I'll change the position to position plus one. So from position to position plus one. Make sense? And then let me see if this code works. Well, so we have to try out and see if this code works. If it doesn't work, then we'll sort it out again. Okay, it doesn't work. So what happened? It doesn't work. What happened? What do you think have gone wrong? The first problem is this part here. So it's not position plus one. Let's say if position starts with zero, right? 0 to 0 plus one, it still only takes zero because the last one is not inclusive. So what I have to do is I have to change this to 2, which is the length of this guy here. Okay. So it may work at this point. Let's try again. Yep, it works. So my CT is here, and then comes to here. I have 3 CTs. So far so good. Will it scan the first AG? Yes, it will scan the first AG. Okay, the easiest way for Ambrose to see, right, is this what happens, huh? I'll just take this. So exactly what is scanned, you can just do something like this. Okay, I will change this to a print statement. So this is what is scanning. This is what is scanning. So it scans for AG, then it scans for GA and so on. Okay. So let me get this. I can do, instead of tumors, I can do a tetramer. So for tetramer will print out something like this. So it scans for 4. Then the next one is G and so on. So you see, until the last one is just by itself. So far so good. Okay, let me just repeat this to show you. Okay, so let's say I will just use here. I will print the position and the what it scans for. Okay, I can do the same thing here. So see, it scans for position 0, then start from position 1, from position 2 all the way. Okay, so Ambrose, that answer your questions? Why can't you do position 1 again? Okay, because remember, let's say you go from position 1. So the first one will be sequence 0 to 1, correct? Jasmine? It is, this is 0 and then 0 plus 1 is 1, right? Make sense? Okay, so what is it? It will give me only A because this is inclusive and this is exclusive. That means it takes from 0 to inclusive of 0 but exclusive of 1. Yep, correct. So you are getting it. Okay. So we can actually use the position, the index position, to do a lot of different things. In fact, index position is more flexible, just that the code will be longer. Okay. The third option is this. Okay. So this is actually the for loop, which if look through the code itself to see whether do you understand. So now I have the nucleotide, nucleobases in small letters, but I want it in capital letters. So for base in MB, I append it the upper letters. So now it becomes upper. Any problem with this first? This slide. No? Okay, so how about this? Yep, that's what I did just now. So your motifs, you have 3 of them. So for motif in M, so it takes the first one, it prints out the M, the data, and then what's the length of the motif. So this is similar to what I have just now. It prints out the length. Okay. Or you can use it in a dictionary context as well. So you can use it, remember your items, your dictionary items, it gives you the key and the value. Then you can use that. So every time each time it prints, it's integer plus 1, correct? In a way, yes. Assuming that I understand you correctly. Can we make that each time it prints, okay, which part you're talking about, Ambrose? You're talking about for or while statement. We haven't come to a while statement yet, you know. Okay, later then you ask. All right. Okay. Now, any problem with this piece of code here? Any part you do not understand? Okay, the assignment %d and %s. So think about this %d and %s, they are like spaces. They're like dash spaces. So this %d simply means that that space have to be a decimal. %s means that space can only be a string. Then this is a break. So what it does is it takes this value and key, send it into %d and the gap into %d and %s. Okay. Otherwise, it becomes a bit cumbersome. I will have to write something like this. I'll have to write print. So write there are, then close plus string of value plus nucleotide base plus now nucleotide base of string of key. Yeah, basically, otherwise I'll type something like this. Okay. This is a easier way to type in a way. Okay. As you get used to it, you'll be more often using this statement instead. So it's just a practice. Okay, so for example, now don't bother about the first part. Let's bother about this. So what it does is you have a set of protein codes. So for range in protein, length of range, okay, so it's a position, the index. So if protein I, so I get the first one is 0, so S. Not in this acceptable protein codes, then it says it contains an invalid amino acid. Make sense? You can do this for DNA as well. So you only accept ATGC. So far, so good. Okay, try to figure out these few lines of code. And whether can you deduce the answers here. Okay, while we're at it, maybe we can go for 5 minutes or 10 minutes break. We'll come back at around 2:15. Okay, so go and get a drink if you need to. Be back at, let's say, 2:15. Yep, you can. This? Ambrose, this or not? Okay. Okay, are we all back yet? Give me a signal if you are back. Hello, all back yet? 2:15 already. Hello. Respond. Okay, Joanne is back. Okay, kind of more or less everybody is back. Okay, the next one is while statement. So the difference between for loop and while loop is this. For loop, the computer actually knows how many times to loop. Okay. The computer actually knows how many times to loop. While loop, actually the computer may not know how many times to loop. Now this may sound a bit strange to you. Okay, let's look at our for loop first. Now for loop, because of the position and the range, it actually knows how many times it has to set to loop. Otherwise, the computer will fail. So for example, if I were to set this like data equals to 1357, no, data, I'll say that data is 135, okay, just this alone, okay. Then I'll do something like this. For index, also known as a position, in range, length of data, if I'll say that if data, oops, data, data index divide by 2 equals to 1. That means it's an odd number. If it's an odd number, then I will just say that I will take my data, append another odd number to it. So I append my, so I'll say here, new number equals data index plus 2. So now becomes I append a new number. Now this, although it seems logical, but it will fail because as I compute, the length of data keeps changing. Does it make sense to you? Because the first time it takes, okay, index 0, so it goes in, then 1 divided by 2, remainder 1, so it's correct. I'll add 3 to the back of it. So the length of data keeps increasing. I cannot do that. It may give me an error until it actually hits nothing. Okay? So what it really does is, what I want is it will continue to go on, but it doesn't. Right? There is a limit. The limit is because this tree is already stuck. So the computer actually knows how many times it has to loop. Based on this data alone, it actually has to loop only 3 times. So it will produce another 3 more numbers behind that. I cannot continue. Make sense? By right, it should continue infinitely, right? I cannot continue because of this. So far, so good. So if I do not want to know the number of times the computer has to loop, I will use a while loop. Okay. So how do I change this? Okay. So for example, here I have, let's say data is say 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Okay. If I just want to print out the numbers in a for loop position, like for index in range length of data, I will just print data index. So you know that you'll print 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. No problem. How do I change this into a while loop? A while loop will take this construct while the condition is true. And I will do something. So while the condition is true means that while what? Okay, while. But before I do a while, right, I have to set something a condition. So I will set something like a counter. So here, let me just do. Okay, I'll set index equals to 0. Set the index to 0 first, because here the index 0 is actually given by the range. So index 0 while index is less than the length of data. Then I print data index. Will this work? Okay, since Ambrose, you're actually quite familiar with this already, will this work? Short of one bracket here. What will be printed, Ambrose, if I do this? So my data is this. What will happen? Yes, you go one more. You keep printing 1. You keep printing 1, correct? No, it will not print 0, Ambrose. The index will be always be 0. So Nabil, correct? You will keep printing 1. And the problem is, it will print indefinitely, correct, Nabil? You'll go indefinitely. There's no stopping condition because this statement is never going to be false. Make sense? Right, so for Nabil, correct, it will keep printing 1 indefinitely. For Ambrose, you know why it will not print 0. Okay, good. Okay. Now, please do not do this, especially for your SIP. If you ever need to program something and run on a server system, if you do this, there is no way to stop it. Seriously, there is no way to stop it because the computer doesn't run out of memory, the computer doesn't do anything. You have to call up the system administrator to stop this thing for you. So what you need to do is, this is where you have to increment the index yourself. So it's index equals index plus 1. When index becomes 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But here, it will still give me error. What do you think is the error? It will give me error. This statement will still give me error. Don't believe, you just try. Okay. So what happened is, because at the end of the day, it will not, it's still lesser. Wrong order. No, it gives me the correct order. Okay. The common problem that you will mess up is, you take index equals to this, then you will give you a problem. Okay, you'll be out of range because index starts with 0, but the length of it is 5. It will never hit 5. Index data of 5 will give you an error. Okay. But just now I did here is still correct because I don't have equal sign here. So it depends on what you want to do. You can do this step, or if you want to do the second one, I take index length -1. So you will hit, this one is maximum, index is less than or equals to 4. Then you will work. Okay. So how I actually always program on while loop. I will do this. I will write this statement first. Okay, let me just use a more regular one. I'll write this statement. So this is what I'll do. In the editor itself, okay, let me just show you what I do. I will write the while statement first. Then I will put the limiting condition. I'll put index equals index plus 1. Before I write those things in the middle. Okay, so before I actually write this, write anything in the middle. Because I can be so hung up in programming whatever thing I have here, and I forget to add in this incremental line, and it will give me a infinite error. The loop will go infinite. So far so good. Okay, so how do I do this? Anybody heard of this thing known as Fibonacci sequence? Anyone heard of Fibonacci sequence before? Yes, Ambrose. Anyone else? So Ambrose, give me what is the first two number of Fibonacci sequence? Somewhat. 1, 1, and 1. Okay, Fibonacci sequence is 1, 1. The third one is actually the last two. So it will be 2. And then it will be 1 plus 2 give you 3. Then 2 plus 3 gives you 5. 3 plus 5 gives you 8, and so on and so forth. You run indefinitely. Okay. So we can actually use a while loop to simulate that. Can we actually run a while loop indefinitely? We can. Okay. While loop you can run indefinitely. Actually, there are many programs in this world that runs indefinitely. Like for example, your web server, your operating system runs indefinitely by right. Okay. So for example, I can do this. While, if I want the condition to be true, I just say while true. Right? So let me just type. Okay. So I'll say n1 equals to 1. N2. Well, let me just do it on that side. Okay. So let me just do it here. So I'll say n1 equals to 1, n2 equals to 1. Then while true. Okay. While I'll just say that, let me give you a limiting factor, okay? While n2 is less than 1000. So I want to print Fibonacci sequence up to 1000. Otherwise, my computer will crash. So I'll say that new number equals to n1 plus n2. Okay. Then I have to replace it. So now n1 becomes n2, and n2 becomes the new number. Otherwise, it will not stop. Make sense? Can see how this works? I start with 1, 1 first. Okay. So 2 is less than 1000. So it goes in. N1 plus N2, 1 plus 1 gives me 3. Okay. So new number is 3 already. N1, N2 goes to N1. So now N2, N1 is 1. But N2 is 2. Then you keep repeating again. So this is I will say print new number. Okay, so I want to see what the Fibonacci sequence below 1000. Can you understand this code? It will stop when N2 is actually above 1000. I don't know how long it will continue. Okay, so let's try. Not very large numbers. So 1 plus 1 gives you 2. 2 plus 1 gives you 3. 3 plus 2 gives you 5. Okay, 5 plus 3 gives you 8. 8 plus 5 gives you 13. 13 plus 8 gives you 21. 21 plus 13 gives you 24, and so on. Makes sense, right? So far, so good. Anybody know how to use Fibonacci sequence? Hello, anybody know how to use Fibonacci sequence? Or those who have somewhat heard about it before? Okay. Let me just repeat. If I want to do the Fibonacci sequence up to 10,000, okay, it's just a few more numbers. You give me this number. Okay. If I take this number, let me just show you the magic of these numbers. Go to Excel. Excel, open up. So this is my Fibonacci sequence. The best part is if I take the current number divided by the preceding number, you will get to 1.6. Okay, it will actually help narrow down to 1.6. Okay, so there is a limitation to it. Okay, so that is how Fibonacci sequence is actually used. That means every succeeding number is about 1.6 times the preceding number. Okay, so this is a bit more of maths. We don't bother too much. So let's go through. For example, while the condition is true, then you keep looping it until the condition is false. Okay, so you can use it to find, let's say, a part of a sequence. For example, when does the first system actually comes into place, or when does the first block of certain things come into place. And you can use it to look for identity sequence as well. Okay, essentially that's what while loop is for. But very often we want to have control statements. So for example, we have break, continue, and pass, which is a placeholder. I've shown you how to do pass already. So how does it work? Okay. So continue, break, it terminates the nearest loop. That means it get out of the nearest loop. Continue actually finish the loop and goes on to the next cycle. Read this, at least these two, break and continue. Do you actually understand it? Okay, so let me just show you how can it work. Now let's say if I have a sequence and I say that my sequence is, let's say 1 3 1 3 5 7 8 9 11 13 15. Okay, so I purposely put a even number here because that's what I need. And I actually say that for let's say, okay, for number in sequence. Okay. If let's say number divide by 2 is 0, that means it's an even number. Okay, I will do a break. Else, I will print the number is an odd number. So I put here to string first. Okay, so let's try it. We see what happens. When it breaks, when it hit this condition, right, it takes out all the way to the loop itself. That means it goes all the way out of the loop already. Because when it takes 1, okay, 1, your odd number, 3, odd number, 7, 5 is the odd number, 7 is the odd number. When it takes number 8, goes in, this is true. So it breaks, it doesn't loop again, it breaks all the way out of the for loop. Compare with this, if I do a continue, see, I just continue, that means I don't bother about it. I go to the end of the thing and I continue my loop. So it is just kind of ignored. You see a difference? Okay, you see the difference between continue and break. Break, you go out of the loop altogether. Continue is you go to the end of the loop and then you restart the loop again. That means you just finish whatever part of the loop, then you continue the next cycle. So far, so good. Any problem so far? Actually, that's all for today. We have done with past already. Any problem? Okay. Okay, that's all for today, actually. So I've uploaded tutorial 3. Okay, you'll PM me, that's fine. Uploaded tutorial 3 already. Thursday, there's no class because it's public holiday, visa day. Your Friday, we'll start again. So Friday is 8 p.m., 8 a.m. Okay, that's all for today. Have fun. Bye bye.